Hey, let's take it higher. God told me to tell you, child, don't worry, keep it moving. If they walk out and you lose them, you just know that heaven still has your reward.
I am from the South Side. I'm a worshiper. I serve in the worship team at my church. I am a teacher by the day. I teach special ed. Um, I'm a songwriter, singer, black man extraordinaire. About 2 years ago, I went on the journey of I prayed that year. I was like, Lord, I want to be whole. But when you pray that prayer, God puts you in a situation where everything that isn't whole comes up. And for years, I had struggled with worrying, and I struggled with depression because of traumatic events I've been through, losing your parents, close relatives, life situations, and I had always worried. And there was a point where I went to a situation where, health wise, where I had a headache for over a month, and just random headache. And I went to the doctor, went to the ER because it got so bad. And then it was like, okay, we're gonna give you this to get rid of the headache, and if you have anything like anxiety, if it's in your bloodline, if it's there, it's gonna come out. And that happened to happen. It came out while I was doing a test while I needed to give me the medicine. The medicine worked, got rid of the headache. But after that, I got to a point where I got ready to wake up to go to church one Sunday to lead worship with the team, and I struggled to get out of my bed. I was in a deep depression and just worried. And I knew then, like, I had to do something. I ended up making it to church, made it a little bit late for 11:30 service, cried my way through worship. But after that, I vowed I would do something to get this handled. Around that time, I had just lost my aunt a few months beforehand, who had Alzheimer's, and I was with her a lot at the nursing home, visiting her all the time. And during that time of visiting her a lot, I was there almost every day. Like, that was when I was free from everything else. That's where I was at the nursing home, spending time out with Joyce and loving on her. Her birthday actually was the other day, and there were a few times where I started to experience panic attacks. And I was in the Starbucks downtown one day, and I felt like the floor was sinking. I felt like I was losing it. And I called my friend James. I said, "Bruh, I'm scared. I don't know what's going on." And it was like a panic attack for me was like where I was in fight or flight, where you want to move and get up and go, but you can't move because you want to stay where you are because you feel like as long as I'm where I'm at, I'm safe. But I also need to get up and go. So I had a couple of panic attacks on the low, and I didn't tell anybody. And so until that morning, that I couldn't get out the bed to go do church. So after I got through with that, I personally made a decision. Let me go back. It wasn't a decision that I just made by myself. It was a decision that God pushed me towards. Um, in the Bible, it talks about him being a counselor, and God has also equipped it and anointed people in the area of counseling and therapy and all that stuff to help you get what you need. And so I went on a journey for about like a month and a half, calling every place in the city, like, listen, do you got like a therapist or something? And every place was either too full to the max, and they had no help, or they either had like no help and overwhelmed with cases, or it was the flip, where it was like we got the money, but not the people, or all that kind of stuff. And I prayed. I said, Lord, I need to find a therapist. And what was supposed to take a 2 month journey ended up happening in 2 weeks. I went to my first therapist, and we talked. I went to the doctor for a regular doctor's trip, and to follow up, and they gave me a test, about depression or whatever. And then when I went to the therapist, we talked, we connected, and every place that I reached out to told me that if we have an available spot, it's going to take you 6 months to get somebody to see you. And I'm like, I'm struggling right now. I can't wait 6 months. You know what I'm saying? And when I finally got the appointment, I went. His name was Jesse. We talked. He's a white guy, and we talked. And after a month of just talking, being every week, he diagnosed me with anxiety and depression, severe anxiety and mild depression. What that means is like there's like severe, mild, and then like I think like low or regular or whatever. And what that meant for me was all my life I've been worrying about things. And your parents tell you like stop worrying about that. But what do you do when you can't? When it's like something that it's like you can't stop worrying. You know, you worry about something that happened 2, 3 weeks ago, and while it's easy to say let it go, you can't let it go. And it's like you're trying to explain it. And so, or you're worried about something, the minor kind of things, and you're worrying about it for hours and days and whatever. And so I went there, and I went to therapy with him, and then we had a talk about medicine. And of course, I'm like, I'm saved and sanctified. You know, I'm like, not doing no meds, the blood of Jesus. After spending the weekend thinking about it and talking to a good friend at that moment about it, I remember on the altar telling my friend, just like, you know, I'm on the fence. Because if I do medicine, does that make me feel like I trust Jesus less or something? And, you know, that's what you think. Because you feel like if you do that, then I failed my faith. And oh my goodness, I don't trust Jesus to heal me. Because it's easy to rokoboshake in church. But what do you do when you're done speaking in tongues and you're done shouting? And you still have this issue. How do you handle it? That's the faith part. Actually walking out your faith and doing the steps you need to do to get healed. So I made the decision to do the meds because I was conflicted that weekend. When I finally decided to, I decided to do it, knowing that I won't be on it forever, but knowing that this is the process to my healing, to my deliverance. This is the process to make me whole. So this is what's gonna help me manage this and be okay. That I need to do this. So that's the point when I really just had to take over my journey, because so many times when you go into a situation, you don't understand the power you have. And I'm like, if I want deliverance, if I really want to be healed and I want to be, if I really want to win in this situation, I got to take over the journey. And that's when I decided to put my health first and say, you know what? I'm sitting here listening to this guy talk about what I need to do. But at this point, I need to take this journey over because like this, I'm driving this sucker. I need to make sure that I get what I need and not just be fed what I'm being told, you know, take ownership of it. So I switched the meds to another meds that I'm still taking. And I think the consistent thing about that was like committing myself to taking medicine every day. Because you know, like I watched my mom when she took medicine, she would take it, and then some days she wouldn't. And I kind of picked the habit up. I'm like, oh, I feel better today. I don't need this sucker. And then you have a panic attack. Like, oh crap, I need it again. But I took part of my journey. And so I started looking, and I was talking to God, and I was looking online, and I found out this place called NAMI, National Association of Mental Illness, I believe that's what it's called. And I reached out to them because I was just like, my thing when I told God, I said, listen, if I'm going to do this thing, I need to bring you glory in this somehow. So I just reached out to them randomly, and they hit back, like, oh my goodness, they reached out to a black guy. Now they reached out to me. And I started talking with them, and I decided to be a speaker for NAMI. Only a couple of close people knew about my situation with my anxiety and whatnot. Because not only did I have panic attacks, but I had tremors from the medicine. I had tremors beforehand, just a tiny bit, but the medicine brought that out. So then I was dealing with the side effects. The first 2 weeks of the medicine is always the hardest when you get back on. There were times I stopped taking it for days because I forgot or whatever, and then having to fight and be like, okay, Terrence, get back on this sucker. There was one time I had a panic attack, not a panic attack, but like you just call it a panic attack right before service, and my hands were trembling, and I got nervous because I was trying to act normal everywhere else, so they wouldn't people wouldn't notice, because only my closest friends knew my situation. I was still in my aunt's house, so I didn't even tell my family. And so one Sunday, Kendria, who's our admin for the praise team, saw me. My hand was trembling. I told the team, Jessica, and they prayed for me. And that meant a lot to me because I'd open and be like, this is what I'm dealing with. And one time my hand was shaking and Kendria just kind of like held me until it stopped. And that's another thing about my faith. I love my praise team fam because like they really were there for me. When I was debating about taking meds and what route to go, I have one friend who's like into like holistic treatments and stuff. Then on the praise team, you know, we had Andrea, who's not only a minister, but she also is a, counselor, licensed counselor, therapist, I think, on the side. So I asked her for advice because I trust her advice. God had placed people all around me that I could ask and find out, like, okay, let me get advice, let me get the wisdom, because there's wisdom and the multitude of counsel. And so once I got that, I went back, prayed about it, thought about it, and decided to do what I did. And so the next couple months, it's the journey of changing my eating habits because that affects you. Riding the waves. And I'll be real. Recently, about 2 weeks ago, I went through what my therapist called a depressive episode, where my depression and my anxiety hit at the same time. I was at work and I couldn't focus that day. Like, I just couldn't focus. And I was in a boring meeting too, so that didn't help it. I was sitting there like, dude, now you're making my anxiety worse, because I was sitting here, you got a monotone, throwing a lot of information at me, and I don't know what to think. But I knew when I got to rehearsal and it started showing, I don't know if anybody picked it up. I knew me. And then the next day, I couldn't get out the bed. I was just like overwhelmed. I ended up having to take off work um, the next day. I think I took a day or two off. I took that Friday off because I needed it. I was overwhelmed. But I'm grateful because I had friends, my best friend, and I love her, my best friend, and a couple other people, like, they really, my community really just got around me. And that's been the journey this last year and a half. Because I told my family last year about my anxiety and my depression, and it was like, it was okay. Um, it was freeing for me to finally tell them, because I didn't want to. Because there were days where, like, when my mood was when my moods would swing, and there are times where I want to be around a lot of people, and there are times where I don't want to be around nobody. And finally get together, and I wouldn't want to be around. And it wasn't because I didn't want to see them. It was because my mood was swinging, and I was afraid that if I'm around, if I'm already anxious and I'm already irritated, because that's another thing with anxiety, your irritation. And so when I'm already irritated, I don't want to be around people because I'm like, I don't want to go off on you. And you think, oh my goodness, you hate. No, I'm just irritated today, so my little thing might set me off or whatever, or something might swing. So it's been a journey of every single day, walking through, like, dealing with the panic attack, dealing with the mood swings and riding that. Some days it's like, hey, it's great. And then the next day it's like, oh my goodness, I'm tired. But knowing that God gives me the strength to do this, and trying to just cope with it and walking through it and managing it and hold myself accountable for taking my medicine. If I forget to take it in the morning, then I take it in the evening or whenever I'm thinking about it. Sometimes I take it at work just to make sure. Having a support around me that I can talk to. I can talk to my friends. I can talk to my best friend. I can talk to her. I can talk to my closest other friends, and I can talk, to people that understand. And yeah, like when I started being a speaker for NAMI, it was interesting because I was the only black guy that I knew, that I saw doing what I'm doing, and so you get everything. I remember I was doing an event in my old neighborhood that I grew up in. And this old lady said something to me that, like, bothered me. She was just like, it's like, whoa, I know why you got anxiety, because you deal with all that little stuff you went through. And, ooh, and maybe you just prayed. And I'm just like, and it bothered me because it was like, you just decided to tell me what you thought about anxiety and depression. You just tried to tell me what I should have did and what you thought, but you didn't hear my heart. You didn't understand it. Like, maybe this is my thorn, but you didn't hear my heart. You just assume that you know what it is, and you deal with depression. And that's another thing I'm learning lately, is how to separate the two, to know when I'm dealing with depression and when it's the anxiety. Because it's easy to talk about the anxiety, but it wasn't easy to talk about the depression. And realizing, because you could be high functioning and all that, but to let people know, like, listen, this is real, this is biological, and after I get done dealing with the spiritual part, I have to put the work in to make sure that I manage it and that I'm good. And that's an everyday process. And so I'm in a process to restoration, because I feel like I'm like my pastor said, your misery becomes your ministry. And so I'm like, God, why would you put me in a situation? Why would you put me through something where now you're giving me the keys to an area that most people don't have keys for, and you trusted me to do this, and this is something that I didn't ask for this. As an intercessor in my church, there was one Sunday pastor asked us to pray for people, and everybody came up to me for prayer. Ended up coming to me for prayer, and it was talking about, I have depression, I have this. And that's when I realized, like, okay, God, you're using this. Maybe this is the area that most people don't talk about, and maybe you give me the key so I can unlock somebody else's chain, so we can all be free together. So we can know that you can be black and saved and dealing with this, but you can still trust God with this and walk with him as he gets you to your healing. It's a scripture that I grew up on at the church that I was raised in. It says, in all thy ways acknowledge God, and he shall direct thy path. When it says in all thy ways, sometimes my ways ain't the way that God is. Sometimes my ways ain't the way that Jesus is. Sometimes my ways even make me feel some kind of way. But if I acknowledge God in it and acknowledge God through it, He gonna give me exactly what I need to be where he needs me to be.
Hey guys, it's your girl Jenny Christian. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Feel, Heal, and Restore. Don't forget to stay up to date on new episodes. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel or follow us on social media at feel.heal.restore on Instagram and Feel, Heal, Restore all together on Twitter. We'll see you soon.